let me tell you why we're doing what we're doing. With the reboot sessions that have been going on, we've found that they're really helpful in terms of providing information. But as Brittany was saying, there's something else that happens when we get together for other reasons in the breakfasts and in the after hours that allows people to kind of think together and have some discussions. So the purpose of what we're doing today, and this is a trial for us to see whether or not this is a need in the community, is to discuss your thoughts and feelings on how you're navigating in May 2020, to create what hopefully can become a bit of a support network for you collectively, and maybe just one-offs with other people inside of the small groups that you're going to be in today, to generate some ideas, share some stories of some success and innovation, and maybe even identify some common opportunities that come out of this. Because we want to reinforce the idea that if we're going to build capacity, is by building capacity together to build some custom designed Lewis County solutions as we reboot. So this is a chance not for us to share our thoughts on those things, but to bring you together to talk about some areas of rebooting and what's going on for you in this. Jim Collins, who you may know from years ago, wrote a book called Good to Great, and last week was online talking about, people have been asking him for words of wisdom, and he said one of the things that's applying right now about organizations and businesses that are succeeding and are trying to find their way through this is that the Stockdale paradox is in play. And basically the Stockdale paradox is this: it says two things. One is that you need to have an unwavering faith that you will prevail in the end around this. And the you is all of us and you individually. Balanced with the idea that we have to face the brutal facts as they are today. And so our questions are really to help us look at that Stockdale paradox today. So we're going to talk about what's working. We're going to talk about how you're facing what are the realities that aren't the sunshine and roses, and where are you going in the next couple of weeks. So Brittany, if you'd flip to the next slide for us for just a minute, we'll share the questions that were posted in the invitation. And then Kristen and I are going to come in each of the rooms and we'll post the questions up front. So you'll see them now as a group, and then they'll also be in the messaging in your chat rooms as well. So the three questions we're going to talk about is what's working for you right now and what's keeping you afloat, figuratively or literally. That'll be one discussion, and then Brittany will come into your room. There will be a little blue reminder that will come to whatever small group you're in to say, could you please now move to the second question? And the second question is looking at communication. What are some of the smallest things that you've done that are having an impact on either your customers or your staff? Then you'll get another blue reminder from Brittany as our administrative host for the full session, which is, could you please switch to the third question, which is, what are the priorities for in your business in the next 2 to 4 weeks? Where are you going? What are you focused in on? And your job then, after those three conversation pieces in your small group, is to identify are there any threads and themes to what you've seen and heard in this conversation? And what's a couple of those things, lessons learned or biggest challenges that you want to bring back to the full group? And the technology is going to allow us, fingers crossed, to actually bounce you back into the room that you're in with all of us right now after you've had those three discussions and identified your key points, okay? And so the majority of the time is really spent with this small group of people, and just like you would if we were sitting at a round table or with a glass of wine together at the early morning or the evening session, is to just introduce yourself, spend one sentence saying who you are and which hat or which hats you're wearing in your conversation today, and then dive into the first question, what's working for you and what's keeping you afloat right now. So that's kind of where we're going. Brittany and Kristen, did I miss anything, or shall we start to dive into the rooms? Ready to go?
I think we're good to go.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen logistically. Brittany is now working as the administrator of all of the people who are on our call. It's going to pop you into a room. You'll get some kind of a notice and it'll say Please join room whatever, and it will show you what room you're going to be in. Other people will get the same note, and you'll be spending the next 20 to 25 minutes with that group of people having your conversations. For those of you who are naturally extroverted or like to chat a lot, we encourage you to contribute, but also make space in these 7-minute slots for everybody to contribute to that. So maybe back off before you've shared 4 or 5 of those 7 minutes and 4 other people don't get to chat. For those of you who are happy to be listeners, certainly you can do that, but we'd also encourage you to share a thought or 2 of yours. The beauty of this is supporting and sharing from a variety of perspectives, and that can only happen if you contribute. All right, so this room will come back to you when we're finished in about 25 minutes for us to hear what were the thoughts and themes that came out. But in the meantime, we'll send you off to your rooms and we'll see you there. Okay, Brittany, away we go.
Okay, so I'm going to break everyone up into, there's going to be 5 breakout rooms, and there will be 4 to 5 participants per room. And I do encourage you to put your video on if you're comfortable, but we completely understand if you only want to keep the sound only option. We just like to see everyone's faces. All right, so give me one moment and I will. And you will all see the timer. There should be a timer in the top right corner of your screen.
Thank you.
And I'm going to set it at 25 minutes. And like Christy said, I will alert you when you guys should be switching to the next question. And again, those questions will be posted in your chat box in each of your breakout rooms. All right. So here we go. Have fun.
So we'll just give everybody a minute or two to come back into this room. They had an option of when they chose to do that before it automatically closed out. So we'll just give people a minute, and then we'd love to hear what are some of the key messages from your group.
I think those people that are on a phone just have to wait until the room closes.
Okay. We can watch you coming back in. So got about half our group. Just give it a couple more minutes. And just while you're waiting for the rest to think about some ideas that you can share back with the rest of us from what were the rich discussions on the little pop-ins that I was able to do. And so really thinking about a couple of messages you could share back with the rest of us around things that you've learned. Are you doing things in common? Are there great differences? Are there any opportunities that you found or that are worth us knowing? We'll just go there. So let's open up the room for that piece of the discussion. What'd you learn? Room one.
Are we room one?
You were, Greg. Yeah.
Oh, great. I think that people have become very good at, over the period of time, communicating and utilizing virtual tools. You know, working from home has been a challenge. People have been getting around that, getting the routine in place, as one mentioned, utilizing all those aspects, and even utilizing space face-to-face when needed, especially when customers come into, for instance, a distribution warehouse, that utilizing social distancing, but making the best of things. And there has been a learning curve, as everyone has said, and everyone has said it's a new world going forward. And for instance, in human resources, one of our teammates said, "There's a new aspect to this, and there's new skills to be made, to be used, and to be developed in the area of communication." And for staff, these weekly meetings and breakout teams have been extremely beneficial for most people, and setting up training as well.
Thank you. Group two. I'm not sure who that was. Kristen, who was in group two?
Jeremiah was in group number 2.
Oh, great.
I guess you got elected spokesperson, Jeremiah. There you go.
Yeah. You heard about that already, huh?
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad. You're not in the final group 5. We're going to have to pick up on things the rest of us haven't already said.
Oh, see, there you go. I want to go last. I'll cede my turn now. No, echoing what Greg said, this obviously is a new world for us. Before I just mentioned to the group before we exited the breakout session, I didn't use Zoom. I mean, I think the last time I used video conferencing, it was either FaceTime or, Facebook chat or maybe Skype, but I had no idea how to use Zoom. I did realize that you can use you can only see so many members on an iPad in a Zoom room. So that was interesting. I kept wondering, why can't I see the other 30 people in the room? So I felt kind of like, I guess my kids would call it a boomer, I guess at that point. I don't know. But no, but in all seriousness though, we're all trying to find new ways to navigate this whole new normal, they call it. And I think, Dan had said in the session there that social media has been a big thing, reaching out to your consumers, your clients, trying to communicate your message effectively. And as we all know, we're all very much seeing tighter purse strings these days. Even if you got the PPP money through the Federal CARES Act, you're still watching every single penny that you possibly can. So you have to do things more efficiently, and social media is a big part of that. And keeping in communication with the people you serve is a big thing too. Letting them know where you stand. I mean, obviously you don't want to give the entire portfolio away, but you want to let them know enough so they can understand, how your business and service is being affected, and how you are still doing everything in your power to effectively serve them. And, I mentioned in our group that at least with my organization, we're in a nonprofit that we've been able to be deemed an essential service this entire time. So we've limited some services, but we're still providing services. So and we're now on the other side of that curve, and we're starting to ramp back up. And as elective procedures continue to increase, we provide those. So it's difficult where you fall. If you're deemed essential, you have the ability to have a little more flexibility. If you've been not deemed essential and you're further down the food chain in the phases, it's even more difficult. So I think it's the big importance that we've all taken away from this is that you have to be plugged in. You've got to be connected. You have to, not only with the community that you're within, but you have to be staying abreast of the news. Cuomo today was at JCC and made that announcement about us, hitting the mark for phase 1. Great. But, you have to continuously pay attention. I think I've been watching more and more news now than I did when I was in journalism, it feels like. So I think those are the big takeaways. It's the communications, keeping connected. It's events like this that make it possible for us to understand what everybody's going through.
Thank you. Group 3. Joe, Courtney.
If Courtney or Toby have anything, but we had, I think it echoed a lot of that. I think it was a few things that came up were, trying to set a routine and boundaries so that, if you're working from home, that Toby mentioned having a workstation and kind of respecting your time and stuff and some boundaries. And we talked a little bit about, just frequent communication, both with customers and staff to, can kind of, it might be necessary, but it can also be a bit therapeutic and a bit social for everybody. And what else? Just taking stock in the position you're in. And we're all having, encountering very different circumstances. So if you're in a position to help, try to help. And if you're in a position that you need help, don't be afraid to reach out because everyone's there. So.
Thank you. Group 4.
Kathy,
Tim?
you want
Yeah.
to jump in on that one? Hang on, you're on mute.
I knew you were going to do that. So correct me if I'm wrong, group members, but a majority of our discussion was around, what AmeriQ has done over the last couple weeks to get ready for reopening, and they're in the midst of reopening a couple of their locations, one of which they've already reopened. So we discussed some of the precautions that they're taking, what's worked, what's been discussed. From my perspective and Kristen's perspective, we're really interested in learning how we can help from a service standpoint, from a government standpoint. So that was really good to hear that from AmeriQ, but AmeriQ is also willing to help. So that just kind of reinforced the community effort, and that we're all in this together and we're all willing to help in whatever way we can. Because there are underlying anxieties to a lot of this, the unknown, the constant adaptation to the situation. And we discussed a lot about being working moms at home and how that's challenging, just in the working environment that we're in right now. As a business, they're struggling, to adapt and to they're definitely listening. AmeriQ is definitely listening to their employees. It's just a struggle to adapt to the situation, because there's no way that you can honestly fix all of the anxiety that comes around situations like this for the employees. So it was just nice to hear a business that's willing to help other businesses. It's certainly a breath of fresh air with the situation.
Thanks, Cassie. And our final group, 5. Randy, Megan, any thoughts from your conversation, a couple of themes that you might want to share with us?
I think they covered it all.
Okay.
Why I wanted to go last.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the importance of communication, keeping it clear, simple, not over communicating, but just making sure you're getting out clear points and simple communication. Planning for reopening, trying to figure out what that looks like, what best practices are, and how to do that safely.
Okay. Sounds like some rich conversation at your virtual tables. We thank you for that. And we've got a couple of other things that we want to do in this time. So just before I turn it back to Brittany to talk about the future and some thoughts and get your ideas on this, I just wanted to read you something. And it's called Shout Out to Everyone Who is Trying Right Now. Trying to do the right thing, trying to stay open, trying to keep going, trying to hold on, trying to let go, trying to find your flow, trying to stay afloat, trying to meet each new day, trying to find your balance, trying to love yourself, trying new things and new ways. We see you, we're here too, and we're in this together. So on that note, I want to turn it back to Brittany to talk about what future together might look like, or what ideas we want to go from there.
Everyone just take a deep breath after that. Sigh of relief. And Kristen, you can help me out here. One thing we wanted to get input on, and thank you, Christy, for kind of leading this discussion. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. I found it to be very beneficial to be able to talk to some of you one-on-one. And I know this is happening in other counties and Jefferson County. So I think if we can, continue to do sessions like this every couple of weeks, I think that would be beneficial, if you guys agree. And any other roundtable topic ideas or just general Reboot Lewis County session topics that you guys are interested in hearing more about, we would love to hear those ideas, whether it be, human resource issues or, CDC guidance and businesses taking precautions and how they reopen. And you can type them in the chat box if you have ideas. We would love to hear them. And again, we really enjoy doing these. Like I said earlier, we really miss getting together with you all. I think, like Cassie said, we have a really amazing community here in Lewis County and the North Country in general. We're really resilient. We're really focused on working together and supporting each other. Like, that hasn't been hard for us to do in the North Country. So I think the more that we can get together and talk about things, the better off we are as a community. Kristen, do you have anything to add?
No, and even if, even industry specific topics, there's a lot of people that, don't want to join because they're not sure if it applies to them. If there's something that's very specific to a certain industry, we're open to doing something in regards to that as well, because we know a lot of people would join in on that. So don't be shy.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments before we get off the call? No? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Again, hopefully this was beneficial and a good start. And again, we'll keep brainstorming topics for you all. And as usual, between Lewis County Economic Development and the Chamber of Commerce, we are here for you all. We're here to serve you all and answer questions or just be that person to listen. So again, thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we hope that you have a great day.
Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for putting it together.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. You're welcome.